Hey everyone, it's Dick here. Today I'm sharing some footage and thoughts on this year's Distinguished Gentleman's Ride. The DGR, as it is otherwise known, was founded by Mark Hawa in Sydney, Australia in 2012. According to the DGR official website, Mark was inspired by a photo of John Hamm's Madman character Don Draper, who is sat astride a classic bike and wearing his finest suit in a magazine spread. Mark decided a themed ride would be a great way to combat the often negative stereotype of men on motorcycles, whilst connecting niche motorcycle communities together with raising funds for worthy causes. Influenced by the loss of a DGR ride host to depression, rides from 2016 onwards have seen a change in the health fundraising from exclusively funding prostate cancer research to including men's mental health programs through the official charity partner, the Movember Foundation. This year's ride is on track to raising all of its £4.5 million of target funding. London is currently the city with the largest fundraising contribution, which stands at just over £228,000, due to its 800 plus participants required to make a minimum personal donation of £50 to participate, in excess to any further donations they collect for the cause. It is important to note that London is the only ride in the world that has a required minimum donation for participating. Over the past 6 years, the DGR has raised over £10 million. In 2018, more than 112,000 riders in 650 cities across 101 countries participated. The minimum required donation for the London ride made me uneasy. I was further discouraged when I learned that there was a loophole in the DGR website that if you registered to another ride and then switched to the London ride, you could be registered without the minimum spend. What further soured the pot was the passive-aggressive language in the emails and other correspondence discouraging riders who did not own, quote, vintage-styled motorcycles. In the 5 events in which I have participated, I've never thought the event was spoiled by the variety of bikes that were ridden. A tweed dandy riding a fully dressed ADV bike was as effective as the guy trying to get his vintage Sunbeam running, holding up 1,000 riders behind him. However, admonishments against anything other than vintage-style bikes came with increasing consistency and fervency. Despite the fact that most of these vintage-style Triumphs being ridden by the majority of riders and organizers were newer than the bikes that were being prohibited. It came to a head on the evening before the event, where the email stated that anyone who hadn't paid the £50 minimum would be accosted with a credit card machine at the gate, and those riding non-vintage-style bikes would be turned away. I know that these strict guidelines were introduced to limit the number of participants as instructed by the Metropolitan Police. However, this information was not shared with would-be participants. Neither was there a suggestion to participate in other regional rides to alleviate numbers. Instead, the organizers have come off as elitist snobs, which I know mostly they are not. And so the day before the ride, only 850 of the capped 1,000 expected riders were registered. My expectations were low, to say the least. The format was altered from previous years as well, from a bike meet show looky-loo event with a park up and awards and speeches presented at the beginning of the ride, to an early meet and the formalities saved for the end of the ride. I believe this was to ensure that more people would be finishing the ride, as personally I have always bailed off mid-ride when I was closer to home than I was to the finish in previous years. The bikes were stuffed together as if we were jockeying to get on a ferry, which prevented any real chance to spy the bikes or make conversation or new friends. The morning briefing felt phoned in and lackluster. There was no real enthusiasm for the event of the ride ahead, and as usual, too few catering options were allowed for. As with most things motorcycle related, my spirits lifted when we got to riding. Most of the riders were sensible and cheerful, and the gathering crowds along the roads waved us on as if we were part of some grand parade. Of course, there was the odd jerk revving his engine too much or riding erratically, but generally it was a good ride out. We did finish the ride and return to the afternoon's program, but disparate parking areas and no clear announcements or schedule found most folks, including myself, wandering around and then slowly leaving before anything really happened. I will continue to be a supporter of the programs that the DGR supports, and I do love a good costume party, but unless I see a change in the approach to the London ride, I will be supporting a smaller ride in future years and ride with other gentlemen outside of the capital. I encourage all of you to give generously to the Movember Foundation or to any charity about which you feel strongly. I also encourage you to ride gentlemanly to further promote a positive regard to us motorcyclists. If you like that video and you want to see more like them, hit like, share, and subscribe.